listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 289, Phenomena, and coming to you from the suburbs of Chicago, where our cars are totaled. I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, I'm your co-host, John. Don't call me Crispy Matola.
Crispy. What's crispy? No, we did Nevada. We're through the ends. And Oklahoma?
You're a few away from it. So
Ohio?
North Carolina.
Oh, we're still on the ends. North Carolina. What's so
Yeah.
crispy about North Carolina?
The birthplace of Krispy Kreme donuts
Ah, that makes sense.
in Winston-Salem.
They should have that on their license plate instead of the first and flight. I mean, who cares about flight anyway?
Yeah, the birthplace of Krispy Kreme donuts, and then like a little donut emoji.
What do you think about Krispy Kreme donuts?
Eh.
Yeah, kind of the same. I had never had them until Jen moved to New York, and I went to visit her once, and they had opened the first Krispy Kreme in Manhattan, and we went there, and I was like, oh my God, this is the most delicious donut I've ever had in my life. And then I had a second one, like not the same day, like a different day. I was like, oh my God, so amazing. And then I had a third one. I'm like, okay, I'm over it. Like I've never had such a wild swing before from this is the most amazing thing I've ever had to I'm kind of done with it. Like I just don't feel like it anymore.
Well, that's the thing though, is I think it just like everything else, it becomes played out if you have it too much.
Yeah, but I don't feel that way about regular donuts. I'd have those all day. But I was like, there's something about that kind of donut that's just like it was amazing. And then
we used to have them out here. Like they moved them up here, and there was actually I think like a production facility in Cranston. And I remember going in, and it was one of those things where they give you a fresh one off the line. Like you saw the little conveyor belt come by, so they were doing that. And it was the original glazed one.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, there's no horrible donut. Like I'm not gonna not eat it, but I mean, I remember when they came up there, the bakery that I worked in at the time was getting in Krispy Kreme donuts. So that was going to be the thing.
Oh,
We're going to
yeah.
fill
Yep.
one whole side of the case with it. And it was a long time ago, so I can't remember. It's like I think it might have been like a guaranteed sale thing. Like we threw them away and they just took the loss. Like, it wasn't incurred upon us. But I just remember throwing away just like an entire rack at the end. Like they had no idea how much inventory to send us. So they just sort of sent us like fucking all of it. And I just remember like wheeling it to the dumpster and being like, one bite for me, one bite for the trash. One for me, one for the trash.
Take a bite out of every donut.
Well, I mean, that's the only way to try them. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like I think somewhere between those and like these huge fucking donuts that they, put fried chicken and waffles and Lucky Charms and Fruit Loops and like, friggin' fireworks on them and shit. It's like there's somewhere in between there, like the donuts that we got or that you and Rich got
Oh, yeah,
for
when
us,
we were in Michigan.
right? Right. Like those are good. Those are like kind of like a good median, or even like
Good
like
classic.
Dunkin' Donuts, just like something in between there, but like maybe a little further toward those humongous donuts that like they try and turn into like a meal in itself. Are it. Yeah.
I think Krispy Kreme just expanded too fast. They were just all of a sudden they were everywhere, and everyone seemed to lose interest, and they shut down all these. There's one right by where I used to work in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Used to drive by it every day, and they'd have the red light in the window, like, oh, that means the donuts just came out, and there was no cars in the entire parking lot. I'm like, I don't think there's even anybody working there.
Yeah, that's yeah, that just happens sometimes, and that's unfortunate, that I don't know. I just feel like I mean I could name a bunch that I know from just brands that I've known over the years that, we've carried in places that I've worked that have started off small and
Hmm.
then grew, maybe not to that size, but they grew so big. And it's like, oh, these English muffins are really good. And I'm like, they used to be, before they, expanded their facilities and,
And mass produced them, and they make them way in
exactly. And then,
advance. Yeah.
oh yeah, there was an English muffin that, they made locally here in Boston and they were great. They were in a kitchen probably as big as this room from what I heard. And when they took off, they were delivering them fresh and then they took off and then bigger production facility, then they shipped them in frozen. And now I think that for all intents and purposes, I think they're garbage.
Mm.
But I
Well,
mean, it's what happens.
well, folks, that's all the time we have for this week in baked goods.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. All right.
See you next week. Where we're going to be talking about crumpets. Um,
All right, now wait a minute. Now this is not nearly as intriguing as what you said at the
yeah, my
top of the
car is
show.
totaled, and I couldn't be happier about it.
All right, well,
So
first
back
of all,
in
glad to hear you're okay. Um,
oh no,
glad to see
no,
you're
it
okay.
had nothing to do with that. So
What
back in
happened?
May, I was at work and we had this horrendous hailstorm, just hail. We talked about it way back then, but just
Hmm.
hail coming down. Everyone that was at work that day's car was damaged, and people, all the places doing body work were backed up for months. Had the insurance adjuster out on Monday, took a bunch of pictures. Wednesday, they contacted us and said, "Bad news, your car is a total loss." I've been driving it for 5 months. There's nothing wrong with it. It just has these little, almost unnoticeable dings
Right,
all over the car.
you showed me that night that we went
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
Yep,
that's
I
right. That's right.
remember.
So, I
When we
mean,
were
there's
out there.
nothing wrong with the car. Um, but they were like, so we can either give you all this money for your car and keep the car, or we'll give you a tiny bit less and you can keep the car. I was like, well, great. I'll take the tiny bit less. I'll keep the car. I won't have the car fixed. And I'll put all that money towards our expensive remodel that we're doing right now. So it worked out perfectly. I've still got a car. It's still insured. There's nothing wrong with it other than aesthetics. I'm living
And
the
if
good
you're
life.
and if you're anybody from Nate's insurance company that was listening, you didn't just hear that.
No, they said I
So,
could do it, and I said, so let me get this straight. This is my money to do what I want with. Like, you're still gonna cover my car, and they're like, yep. And I was like, that sounds too good to be true. I hope another hailstorm. Well, I don't think they'll let me do it again for the same car, but I hope another hailstorm. But yeah, people were having huge 4 to 5 figure numbers for the damage to their car. Everyone that was at work that day. It was just
wow.
located to that one area. When the guy came, even though it was 5 months ago, he's like, "Where was this?" And I told him where, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've done about 300 cars that were in that area since it happened." So
Jesus.
yeah, so good news for us. Very very happy about this. Um, so hey folks, if you want to help support our show, you're like, Nate, you're getting huge payouts from your insurance company. Why should I support you?
Yeah, you don't need any support. Yeah, throw me some support. I don't know where the Patreon money goes.
Well, for those of you that haven't been paying attention, I have a huge remodel going on upstairs. And no, it's not we want to remodel because we want to. It's there was a bad leak and we have to rip out walls and do all that sort of stuff. So the end result will be a nicer kitchen and such, but it's not like a remodel for the fun of it. So yeah, this money comes in very handy. So anyway, if you want to help support the show, you can do so a number of ways. One is by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can buy some merch at our Etsy store, including these brand new handsome toques, beanies, skull
Look at
caps,
that. Look at
winter
that
hat.
stitching.
Look at the stitch. Look at that embroidery. I mean, that's just really nice. For
That makes
fine
me think of
embroidery.
an old school like patch that we put on our jean jackets.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it looks like. Yeah, we should have them just make the patches themselves. We should sell back patches. Maybe that guy
Ooh.
we saw at the Deep Purple show would put it on his jean jacket if he has any room.
Oh, the back patch, like a back patch with like the logo on it, but like a picture of us from like our very first Christmas episode thumbnail. That's still one of my favorites.
That would be a lot of stitching. But you can become a patron on Patreon or on PayPal for as little as $1 a month. Help support the show. Our show is 100% listener supported and ad free. So if you receive some value for our show, please consider giving us some value back. Hey, there's a lot of folks out there with podcasts. All my podcasts this week are moving to this new format where they just stick an ad in wherever, and it's not.
It's terrible.
We talked about one of our favorite shows that just started that this week, and it's not a choice of the hosts, but
Right.
it's the ad platform they're using that says, oh, instead of telling us where you're going to insert the ads or tell us where the breaks are, we're just going to put it in mid-sentence, mid-word. You could be in the middle of a story, in the middle of a word, and it just cuts in, does like 2 minutes of ads, and then brings you back to the show.
Yeah, at first I thought that was a mistake,
Yeah,
until
yeah.
like I thought like, oh, something got fucked up. And then maybe halfway through the show they said, oh, and this is what's going to be happening with you, because they didn't even know when it was going to happen.
Right.
It's very jarring because like you said, you're right in the middle of just the middle of a sentence, not even like a story, just anything, and then it just cuts in and you're like, well,
So
what was I
they did that with all their old episodes. Like if you've gone back and listened to their really old episodes, it's like that because
Oh man.
it was before they started doing the breaks. So they, so say in episode 200 they decide, okay, we're going to start doing ads. All the previous episodes were like that, where it would just come in randomly. But for, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of episodes, they've done it this way where it's carefully placed and it's, whatever. So they talked about that. And then I went on the next podcast I listened to had the exact same thing where it just cut in. So they must be using the same service. So I was like, we've been ad free since day one. We figured we'd become listener supported. If you want to support the show, you can. And that definitely answers any questions of whether we'd want to insert ads. The only thing I've thought in the past is maybe you could do ads, an ad version for people who don't support the show, and then do an ad-free one for patrons. But I would even want to do the ad one now if they're going to possibly change to that model.
Nope, not us, folks.
No.
Where you're gonna get everything all laid out there at once. No interruptions.
No interruptions, other than us interrupting ourselves with some nonsense.
Yeah, just weird trains of thought where we just go off in another direction.
That we are not 100% that free. You can also support us on Cash App, $DPPOD, or on Ko-fi. So let us know what you think. We have, well, as of this episode, actually, our rankings episode will be the votes will be closed, I think, to get your votes in. So, yeah, so I guess I won't mention that, and then we'll regroup for the next episode as far as what our next ranking episode is, because as a patron, you get access to our rating spreadsheet, our patrons-only Discord. You can join us on live stream episodes, and some of those live stream episodes are rankings shows where we do rankings from all of our patrons on specific albums. So as of this time, the rankings for Deep Purple in Rock are closed, and we'll be shortly opening the rankings for Deep Purple Fireball. So
is it closed for me too? Because I didn't do them yet.
No, not for us. You and me haven't done it yet. We do it like an hour before the show because we're so involved in getting everyone else to do them that don't even think. I know. So, yeah, well, of course, we are doing the show, so we can do it as late as we want, but we want to make sure everyone else gets a good opportunity to do it. Yeah. What do we have now? Oh, the next thing up, of course, is thanking those wonderful people who support our show. And the first level of patrons is our executive level. Very apropos for today's episode is none other than the In Memoriam tier with the wonderful late Gerald, Jerry, Kelly, and family. As Jerry was a patron of the show for a long time, sadly passed away a couple years back. We've been honoring him ever since, and he would always send me emails with great scans, and he started going through all of his old Kerrang magazines, and whenever there was anything even remotely Deep Purple related, he'd scan them over and send me an email. We'd have a back and forth, and it was really cool, and he scanned me all these great scans of articles about Phenomena, which we're going to get into. So that really kind of gave us a lot of info to go on, and I even picked up the issues for a little extra research just so I could have them. So
Ooh.
they were available on eBay. So all right, and then we have at the $25 Uncommon Man tier, Mr. Ovis Nakvi. At the 10-pound Good Doctor tier, Dr. Mike Catan. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. At the 15 Squid tier, we have Alan. Alan, I'm so sorry about that. At the 10-pound Good Doctor tier, Dr. Mike Catan. Those jingles are coming in hot today. At the turn it up to $11 tier, Clay Wambacher, Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Mikkel Steen, Will Porter, PhD, PP, and Michael Don't Call Him Bradford Bagford. At the $10 Someone Came tier, Ryan M., Jeff Bryce, Victor Campos, Better Call Saul Evans. And Peter from Illinois. And at the Hughesoween by 2033 tier, Fielding Fowler. All right, and how apropos, since this is our Hughesoween episode this week. So Fielding prompted us years ago and begged us for a Hughesoween episode, which we did our first one last year. And this was sort of going to be that episode last year, but instead we did kind of a Deep Purple's spookiest moments or whatever the heck we called it at the time. So this year we're doing the Phenomena album. As we'll see with the artwork and the music, it kind of touches on some paranormal, Stranger Things, spooky sort of stuff. So, and features Glenn Hughes and a number of other related folks. So figured perfect opportunity to get into that.
Bleh.
But Fielding did suggest that we change the name of his tier, as we delivered 10 years early on his promise. I'm trying to go into the chat here and see what some of his suggestions were. So on the Discord, he suggested, where the heck is it? I probably should have had this at the ready. But he had suggested a few other things. Of course, I won't be able to find it now. So he suggested, I was thinking when I started Hughesoween by 2033, it would have been hilarious if Nate stretched it out until then. But maybe it is now time to rename. A new demand? He said Black Country Christmas by 2033. Independence Day, Deep Purple dance music, which I don't know if I can think of much Deep Purple dance music. I would yeah, I would need some prompting from him on that one. And then he said maybe the $13.01 Matola short reply tier with a clip of a classic John no, huh, or hmm. He said, or let the patrons name it.
I do that.
Yeah. Sometimes after a long delay. So, and then Rich suggested, how about the I was offered 2 free tickets and a chance to meet the band, but I already started cooking dinner tier. Classic Rich. Okay. So that's just a little peek into the fun that goes on our Discord. You can be in on the conversation, insulted by Rich, all that great stuff goes on.
Hey, Rich will do it for free.
He'll start inviting people into the Discord for free just to insult them. Okay, so here we have this album, Phenomena. John, do you have any history with Phenomena or any knowledge about it?
No, I don't even know what it is.
All right. So Phenomena is an album conceived of by Tom Galley and came out in 1985 on the Bronze label and features a lot of people, and we'll get into that as we get into the individual tracks. But of course, including most notably probably Mel Galley and Glenn Hughes. So Tom Galley was a co-writer of a lot of Trapeze stuff, and he is a writer here with Galley and Hughes on a bunch of other stuff. So this album has been talked about, probably one of our most one of our most requested albums over the years is something for us to cover.
Hmm.
Figured it goes good with the spooky season. So, um, the idea behind this, and there is an old website, and I'll put a link in the show notes, but you basically can't get to it anymore because it's closed down. But through the Internet Archive, there's a bunch of stuff on there, and it looks like an old website. It looks like they designed it when this album was 12 years old, and it's just been hanging on. It hasn't been changed because obviously it doesn't exist anymore. It's just been archived. So Tom Galley spearheaded the project. It took 2 years to complete. His goal was to do this concept album using music, words, film, and painting and stuff, inspired kind of by his childhood, growing up, going to the movies all the time, seeing these science fiction movies or fantasy movies, horror movies, things like that. He put together this project, designed a couple of promo videos in Europe, the Dance with the Devil video, and in the US, a video for Kiss of Fire, two tracks from the album. Then he was going to try to parlay this into like a full length, 70-minute long video, but that never ended up happening. So he talks about movies that inspired him with this concept, such as This Island Earth, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Jack the Giant Killer, referring to them as classics. Have you seen any of those?
No, they don't. None ring a bell.
No, The Day the Earth Stood Still. Isn't that
Oh,
Klaatu
did,
Verado Nikto or whatever?
oh yeah, that was yeah. I'm not really as big into the sci-fi films, more horror.
More
Bleh.
horror.
But
Yeah.
I'll be doing that a
I'll put
lot.
some reverb on that in post.
But yeah, the day the Earth stood. Yeah, I've seen some of those, but I'm not as familiar with them. Those like I said, 50s and 60s sci-fis are not really. I never got into them.
Other than like, Plan 9 or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, that more for the camp of it because it was, um, supposed to be sci-fi meets horror with the atmosphere and everything. But I always just preferred classic horror movies because they had more of a brooding atmosphere, whereas the sci-fi stuff was just kind of this flat everyday story, and then all of a sudden it's just like aliens just take everything over. So it's kind of like the other invading the normal world type thing, and never really resonated with me. I just kind of like the shadows and the monsters and the all that kind of stuff.
You're in it for the blood.
Bleh. Yeah.
So this is the first issue of Kerrang. So this was huge because this came out. This issue of Kerrang would have come out June 27th ish, 1985, and 2 issues worth of articles about this album. So you've got. Now let me move my microphone a little bit so you can actually see it. You've got what looks to be Tom Galley and Glenn Hughes. It says the return of the concept album.
Does Hughes have like this Bride of Frankenstein hair? Like what's
Right, yeah, that's what I thought, but what I think it actually is the light on that girl behind him, but it kind of
yeah.
blends into his hair. So yeah, he looks like the Bride of Frankenstein, the Hughes of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And then look on the back cover, we got Black Sabbath there.
Oh wow.
Which is weird. It's kind of a it says here. What does it say here? Well, it's weird because it's like it's using imagery from Born Again, but yet like the picture of an Ozzy era Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of great stuff in here, and we'll get into like there's a lot of artwork involved with this album. So we'll get into that. And then the second issue comes out and finishes up a bunch more interviews and stories about all the songs. So it's they got quite a lot of press in Kerrang about this album at the time.
That's funny. I never heard of it.
So the plot of this album, of this concept album, is described as such. The story concerns Professor Limit, who has constructed a machine capable of transmitting telepathic energy created by the brain, aided by his 9-year-old daughter, Lucy, a natural telepath. The girl is actually the daughter of Limit's wife and his former lab assistant, Chasen. When the military becomes unhealthily interested in his experiment, Limit seeks help from an influential friend called Frame, whom he demonstrates the machine's power. In a further experiment, Limit is killed and Lucy becomes inseparably linked to the machine. Frame calls on her natural father, Chasen, to rescue the girl by linking himself to the machine and leading her out of the world of fantasy into which she has plunged. The 9 songs represent various confrontations through which they pass. So each song is kind of a story. So how do you feel about concept albums in general?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know that I've ever heard a concept album that I liked. Um, I don't know. I just always think that there's like, and there's some successful ones. So let me get that out of the way. I
Oh
understand
yeah.
that there are successful concept albums. Okay. Um, and I mean, I guess like overall, I don't think that they're, I don't know. I just think that they're just like kind of like these kind of bloated, self-indulgent, pieces of music that, mostly rock bands try and do. It's like, I mean, yeah, they've just never really been that interesting to me because like even you telling me that story, it's just like I'm rolling my eyes like, well, because it's just like some musicians coming up with this story and just being like, oh, this will be my platform and I'm gonna write songs about it. And it's like, and I mean, that's cool if it comes out great, but when it doesn't, which is mostly the case, then it's just kind of like, ugh. Now, I am not including the butterfly ball in that because I
Mm,
love the butterfly ball.
yep.
And I mean, that is like, that's just really, I mean, by all accounts, like a very bizarre concept to
Yes.
begin with. But I mean, it's like this, see, like that one, like, and then there are other ones I don't care for, but I understand their success, right? Like The Wall,
Sure, sure.
right? Or Dark Side of the Moon or whatever. Were they both concept albums or?
I don't think Dark Side of the Moon so much, but The Wall for sure. Obviously, kind of tells a loose story,
Okay, yeah.
which I'm a big fan of that album, although I haven't listened to it in forever.
Yeah, but
Um,
I mean, yeah, see, I mean, that even goes to show how much I pay attention to what is a concept album. Of course, like music from The Elder by Kiss, you know. And I mean,
yes.
don't get me wrong, like some cool stuff on there, but it's just, they not only was it just kind of this self-indulgent project, but they didn't spend enough time on it to do it correctly. So, um, I don't know. They've never been my thing.
I,
Do
I
you like any?
I do. I do like. I mean, I love The Wall. I love. They call Sergeant Pepper like the first concept album. I don't think it really is a I mean, I don't know what the concept would. There's a loose concept. The first 2 songs are kind of tied together. They do a bunch of random stuff, and then there's a reprise of the opening track at towards the end of the album. So that little reprise and that little connection of the first 2 songs is really the only thing that makes it a concept album. The rest of it is
Yeah.
just kind of random stories, or I guess there's a lot of story driven songs on that album or telling stories of people, but none of the people or the concepts are related other than the first 2 songs and then that
Yeah.
little reprise track.
And I mean, there's like Tommy by The Who.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm probably not going to get a lot of fans by saying this, but I'm not a big fan of the Who.
oh, me
So
neither. I mean, but I
I
mean, it's just like growing up when we heard
yeah,
all that. I mean, I know I heard all that stuff on the radio or like, I had friends who were into that as classic rock or, Ziggy Stardust.
yeah, Kilroy. Kilroy
Yeah.
was here.
Rush, um,
Yep.
Queensryche, Operation
Yeah,
Mindcrime,
Operation
right?
Mindcrime, yeah.
Um, and I mean, some of them were, I think
Isn't
some of
like
them were like,
Pornography too is a concept album.
is it?
Yeah, isn't it like about I don't
I don't know.
I don't know what it's about.
I have no idea. I
It's
think like
it's about porn.
you know who else was is King Diamond was another one who was like after he left Merciful Fate he did a lot of like horror themed metal concept albums. Like a lot of like metal bands will do that too that are like the first ones like the Who and all them you've heard of and then you just like you know King Diamond just like releases all these albums or released all these albums and they're just like oh yeah it was about a witch back from 1632, and it's like I don't know.
Yeah. Lizzie Borden might have too. Oh, and Halloween, like the Keeper of the Seven Keys or whatever the heck that
Yeah.
album is, part one and part two.
Right,
That's
but I mean, see, there's just an example right there. Every album that I listed, no interest in them at all.
they all have one common thread. John is not interested.
But I mean, to be fair, like all of those bands were or most of them were classic rock bands or even metal bands that I really wasn't into.
Yeah,
And to be fair about it, you know, my favorite band, one of my favorite bands, Kiss, did it, and I didn't think it was that good either. So I mean,
well, and yeah, but basically nobody did. It's very
right,
very few people sing the praises of the elder.
right. But I mean, it's gotten some cult status. You know, people being like, oh, it's not as bad as you know one would have you think it is, because I think people take it for what it
Yeah.
is rather than trying to compare it to like Rock and Roll Over and other like good Kiss albums, you know?
Well, it kind of reaches that like terminal velocity of people say, "Oh, it sucks, it's the worst thing," and then using all these superlatives. It's the worst thing. I'd rather stick an ice pick in my ear than people go crazy, and then it almost comes around full circle where people are like, actually, it's the if all the edge lords are saying it's the worst thing ever, then you've got to have like the anti-edge lord being like, well, my unpopular take is I think it's great, and then so it's just like people just having to prove something. But my possibly favorite Chris song of all time is on that album. So
Which I mean, I think that the biggest difference too is, and I mean, you know, people could hear the Butterfly Ball and think it, you know, stinks, right? But I mean, the reason that's different for me is that first of all, it doesn't fit into that mold of like, yeah, it's Roger took it from that what is it, that 19th century poem or a book or story or whatever it is.
yeah, there was like a book, and then that got made into like a picture book by Alan Aldridge, and then they took that and made it into the album. So
Right, right. And so I mean, I feel that's a little different because
yeah,
Roger released it as like a solo album with guests. It wasn't a Deep Purple concept album,
yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah,
So, and I mean, even if it was, I mean, I mean, with how many different styles they've done through all the different marks, it's just like I probably would have accepted it anyways. But you know, it's part of the Deep Purple family, and
yeah,
you know, you can't convince me that's, you know, not the only good concept album, you know, that I've,
yeah.
you
There's
know,
got to
ever
be other
gotten
other
into.
ones too, and like the definition of what makes up a concept album is so loose that I mean,
Yeah.
who knows? But and a lot of times where people set out to make one and it doesn't really. It's like, well, I don't really get the concept. Then you've got other things like Operation Mindcrime, for example, which is like, okay, this is obvious. Like, there's like acted out parts in it, and it's clearly a concept album. Then you've got something like Sergeant Pepper, where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, they're being these characters. Those characters are dressed up a certain way on the cover of the album and on the inside gatefold. They start off saying, "This is who we are. What's the name of the album?" And then falls apart after that.
Well, I mean, actually, there is another
Falls
one that I
apart, I
did.
say, knowing that many people say it's the best album of all time. So not diminishing what it is.
Wasp did one too.
Oh,
Yeah, which is the Crimson Idol, which
okay. That's a
which
great name for a concept album.
yeah, which I mean, you know, it's about a you know the rise and fall of a rock star, and his name's Johnny or something like that. You
Johnny
know,
Crimson.
it's very like no,
Whenever
oh
there's like
God,
a
what was his
rock star
name?
that they're singing about in a song, it's always Johnny.
Yeah,
Johnny was a young boy and he played on the guitar, and
yeah,
it's always Johnny.
he was always Johnny. He was always a young boy. He was always a rebel. But yeah, I mean that one actually, I did get into that one for a little while. I thought it had some good songs, but I never really cared about the
Yeah, you didn't care
concept, you
about
know,
the story, yeah.
the rise and the yeah. I mean, it's usually like when I got a hold of it, like later on, that particular one, and then we'll wrap it up because I know we want to get to this one. This concept album is you know, in the deluxe versions or the later versions or whatever, they'd be like, oh, here's a more fleshed out, you know, here are my original notes and everything with the original stories from, and I'm like, yawn, boring, you know. Actually, one of my least favorite Dio albums, I think, was a concept album, now that I remember, which was Magica.
Oh, yep, yep.
Yeah, which I remember that was like that came out and I was just kind of like, it's kind of Dio, but it's like I could do without the whole story. Like, I mean,
Well, his whole stage act was a concept with him slaying dragons and everything.
yeah, but I would say like even Dio, even as good as he was, I was just like I felt that idea was kind of like tired. He's just like, ooh, the world of Magica, and I'm like, oh, all right. All right, Ronnie, you're pushing my limits here.
Yeah. Well, it's a aspire, many artists don't do just one kind of art. They might write music, but they also paint, they also draw, they want to make movies. So it's their opportunity to say, "Oh, I'm going to make this big cinematic experience or whatever." And that's what
Well,
this was supposed to eventually come into. It never came to fruition other than those two videos, which I'll link to in the show notes.
I mean,
If you
that's fair because I mean there are a lot of people that are multi-talented and some breakthrough, which I can't think of any examples, but somebody's known for doing like one thing and then they break through doing something else and then the other 10,000 people try it and it flops.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, but if it harkens back to like the 40s and 50s, it's like if you were a stage actor, you were also in movies, you could also sing, you could dance, and that's not necessarily it today. Nowadays, you like kind of roll your eyes if you're like a movie star wants to sing or vice versa, but that was
Mhm.
really standard back then. Bing Crosby would be in movies, but he'd also be singing. Um,
Right.
so
Whereas like you're watching a movie and then you're like, hey, isn't he on TikTok? And then you don't take it seriously.
isn't that the guy, that rates dogs on TikTok? Now he's got his own movie.
And see, at our age, you have to say it like that.
TikTok,
TikTok.
TikTok, like talk is a question.
TikTok?
TikTok.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You have to say it like we don't know what's going on because it's a
Yeah,
young person's thing.
it's a young person's game. It always is. We
Yeah.
aren't in the game anymore.
Speak
Um,
for yourself.
so anyway,
Anyway.
I got a bunch more stuff in the show notes. One last interesting note is that Galley said he'd approached Ozzy to do the singing on this album, but that
Mm.
Ozzy was gonna do it, but then there was always some problem, and the problem might have been that he didn't want to do it. but the
Well, I was
but
gonna
it also could have been that he was just like, who knows? Ozzy probably not an easy guy to work with.
I was gonna say the problem is that he was probably always fall down drunk and couldn't get to the studio,
So we got 1985 Glenn Hughes to do it, which is something.
which was yeah, probably not much of a stretch. It's just like, all right, we got to get one of these guys that are whacked out of their gourd into the studio. Maybe all right, let's get Glenn.
So, bunch of folks on this album, engineered by Dave Kemp, who worked with Uriah Heep, and also John Jacobs, who you can find at the Paul McCartney Project. He worked with Jeff Emmerich, George Martin, and Paul McCartney. So, quite a lineage there. Dan Priest, who worked with Paul Rogers, Paul Robbins, who had previously worked with Trapeze. Recorded at a bunch of different studios: the Old Smithy Recording Studio, Britannia Row Studios, the Chocolate Factory. Doesn't sound like a studio. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's an actual chocolate factory. Magrite Studios and Air Studios. Then we get into the artwork, and there's a lot to get over. So we'll get into some of it now, and then we'll do some of it when we actually cover the songs, because there is artwork for each song with lyrics as well. So this is the cover of the album Phenomena. You've got John. What do you think about it?
That's pretty cool. It reminds me of that John Lord album cover, or the was it
Oh, Malice in Wonderland.
yeah that's
Yeah,
it, yeah,
yeah,
Malice and Wonder that's Pace Ashen and Lord, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that one, probably because the
The
little girl,
Sinister Girl.
but actually it's pretty cool. It looks like a mid '80s horror movie poster about a girl that's clairvoyant or something.
Yeah, what is it, like a poltergeist, right? Is the
No, it looks like what's that one? Firestarter with Drew
fire
Barrymore.
starters and all, yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
But
So it's got the little girl. That must be Lucy.
yeah, I mean it's actually it's pretty interesting. It's very cool looking. I like uh the kind of cool tones on here, the purple tone on her face. It's kind of dark, brooding. It's got this not really a horror feel to it, but definitely like a magic.
paranormal.
clairvoyant, paranormal type of feel to it. But
And it
yeah,
looks
very
like it looks
eye-catching.
like it would
Yeah.
be a great movie poster.
Mm-hmm.
And a great
Yeah.
logo, the phenomena with the E's kind of like stabbing through the N and the M and the O and
Yeah, I'll give him
spiking
that.
outwards.
Looks good.
Very cool. So the front cover artwork was done by Icon Studios. They did a bunch of really big, memorable album covers. They did Pink Floyd's Momentary Lapse of Reason, Radiohead's Pablo Honey. They worked with The Who. They actually did Deep Purple's Nobody's Perfect, the weird one with a square fish or whatever, the round
sense.
dice and all that sort of stuff. They did ABBA Gold, which I find it very funny because ABBA Gold just says like ABBA Gold in gold print, but it's to me it's iconic. I think because my mom had it.
Yeah.
There's the record itself with the track listing. You've got the inside liner notes here, kind of telling the story of what's going to happen. There's the back cover that lists, kind of reprises that little logo. And then this gives the rundown of all the different instruments being played on the album. So we'll get more into those inside illustrations and everything as we get into the songs. Like I said, the front cover artwork by Richard Evans. He worked with Gentle Giant, The Who, Pink Floyd. He worked on Dark Side of the Moon and Animals, two pretty huge Pink Floyd albums. And the painting and all the paintings done by Ian Lowe, who did a previous album cover for Wishbone Ash, but didn't do too many album covers. I found another painter named Ian Lowe, who seems to be from the same area of England and does mostly paintings of boats and things. So I don't know if it's the same guy, but if he might have been out of his wheelhouse here, but he did a very nice job. Okay, so should we thank our next level of patrons before we get into the album?
Sure.
Let's do it. All right. So coming in at the $8.99 What's Going On Here tier, we have Richard Fusey. At the $7.77 Keep It Warm Rat tier, Michael Vader. At the $6.99 New Nice Price tier, we have Spike the Rock Cat and Sugar Tea. At the episode $6.66 tier, Steve Coldwell, Arthur Smith. Getting support from the patron, Arthur Smith. I realized I forgot Darth Vader.
Impressive.
Anton Glaving.
Pain in the glaving.
Charles Meadows. At the $6.65 Almost Evil tier, we have Kenny Wymore and Richie Sucksmith. At the $5.99 The Nice Price tier, we have Robert Smith and Carl Hellberg. At the 60 Kroners Scandinavian Nights tier, we have Newt Morton Johansson. And at the $5 Moneylender tier, John Convery, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Alman, Alexei the Perfect Stranger Slepikov, Kev Roberts, Percival Frequency, Scott Zerns, Cynthia Doobie, Raf Calf.
My Czechoslovakian is not so good.
Coyote Bongwater. John Maselli.
Great, great. Hey, we'll take that. I'm crazy. I'm insane. I'm nuts. Oh.
Sarah Sanders.
No, Kelly Clarkson.
Jelly Bean and Evan Robinson. Thank you so much for all of your support of the Deep Purple podcast. All right. Ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into this spooky business.
Ooh.
Or paranormal business.
Paranormal business. All right. So the opening track is called Kiss of Fire.
Oh, like that.
I'll load up the artwork for that particular song. So this sounds a little familiar, right? Recognize that?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not. What
think
is
of a
it?
band that Mel Galley was in.
I don't know.
I'll see when it gets back to that part. I'll tell you.
Oh, wait. From Whitesnake, right?
Yep.
Oh, come on. It was the opening track on Slide It In, right?
Yep.
Gambler, right?
There you go.
Ah.
You got it. So this song is about vampirism, the ability of some creatures, terrestrial or alien, to hypnotize or entrance their captives in order to make them kill. The protagonist needn't be a vampire as such, however. So you've got on guitar here, John Thomas. He was in Budgie. Backing vocals by Allison McGinnis and Pete Green from Fleetwood Mac, oddly enough. Bass by Neil Murray. Drums, Cozy Powell.
So we had a
Keyboard-
kind of an
keyboards by
all-star
Richard
lineup.
Bailey. What's that?
All-star lineup here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Richard Bailey on keyboards. He played for Alaska.
Well, if you told me, I was actually going to ask if there was a drum machine. It doesn't sound like it would be Cozy.
Yeah, and I think the number one, I don't want to say complaint, but criticism of this album is the production is a little. The production and the mix maybe aren't the greatest, but I'm not usually a big stickler for that sort of stuff.
I mean, I am only when like the production leans really hard one way. Like you can't, as an average listener, can't do anything but notice it.
Yeah. I'd say this just, it maybe has like a little bit of a muddy sound to it, and the mix is maybe a little off, but it's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, from what I'm hearing is the rhythm section is really quiet. Those keyboards are really loud.
Yeah, the keyboards are really loud.
And I mean, it's 80s sounding.
Yeah. All right, well, that's the opening, Kiss of Fire, and you saw that picture, which I guess we could put back up real quick, but picture of an alien, which looks like it's taking a giant bite out of somebody's skull.
Well, it looks like it's emerging out of their skull.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually, you're much more accurate than I am. But yeah. Okay, so Kiss of Fire, John. I gotta get into this spreadsheet here. What do you think of Kiss of Fire?
I don't know where is this in the spreadsheet?
Is it not in there? Oh, it's not. That's a problem. All right, tell me your
Why don't you tell me what your rating is?
why don't you tell me your ranking? And then
and then you could put it in later.
yeah, I'll put it in, and then we'll figure it out.
All right. I mean, it was all right. Um, I mean, if you just told me this was some project that Hughes was on in the mid '80s, it wasn't a concept album, it was just, here's some pop album or something, I'd be like, all right, 2.5.
All right. Oh, you saw it on the list.
What?
You saw it on the list. You put it in, right? Oh no, you didn't. Never
No.
mind.
No, I didn't. I
All
can't.
right.
I can't see it.
Okay. 3.5. You should see it showing up. It's down below
No,
underneath.
2.5. Don't
Yeah.
inflate it.
I didn't. I'm giving it a 3.5. I like it. I like Gambler a lot. I like that groove. I like the keyboards.
Well, yeah,
The production.
I like Gambler, not this.
No, you don't like it?
Well, I mean, it's all right. It's fine, but
All right. Okay. So the next track up is called Still the Night, not Still of the Night. We're not doing another Whitesnake thing. Let me pull up the graphic for this one.
there's a graphic for each song.
For each song, yeah. In the booklet here, it's gives you a. So this one is like, this one kind of reminds me of Stranger Things, but contemporary. So you get that same alien that was sprouting out of somebody's head, and then you've got two people dressed very 80s running away from it. You've got a ninja, a baby,
Death playing the violin.
yeah. How I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Grim Reaper on the fiddle over there. And it looks like maybe 3 horsemen of the apocalypse. I don't see a 4th one, unless that's Death. Some sort of weird dragonfly creature, some ghostly ghosts running at them, and it looks like it's very like movie storyboard looking.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that looks like an unborn baby in a birth canal. So I'll have the links to this stuff in the show notes because it might be hard to visualize. But on this track, we'll get into this before we actually listen to the song. This one is described as a conglomerate of all the different phenomena under investigation. Drums, we have Ted McKenna, who was in the sensational Alex Harvey band. He was Rory Gallagher's drummer for a while. He was in the Michael Schenker group, played with Gary Moore. You've got Mel Galley and John Thomas on guitar, Robin Smith on keyboards. And then this one was written by Glenn Hughes, Pat Thrall, and Paul Delph, who was somebody who had worked with Alice Cooper and Suzi Quatro, who sadly passed away in 1996. So here we go. Still the Night. As advertised. Very much more keyboard heavy on this one.
Keyboards are like super loud.
Yeah.
In the mix.
Yep. So this Robin Smith,
yeah,
who does keyboards here, worked with a lot of different folks, including Cher, Rod Stewart, and the Backstreet Boys, Lionel Richie.
I mean, this definitely has all the instruments, especially like I think around the chorus there. It's a very heavy, just that typical mid '80s production on it.
Yep.
Like, I mean, this sounds like anything that could have been in like any mid-budget '80s movie.
Yep.
So I mean, really not anything outstanding. Aside from us knowing the people that are involved.
That big like orchestral hit that came partway through the song, I thought I had like accidentally opened a browser or something. It was really loud.
Yeah, I heard it.
I don't know. I used to hate this kind of sound, this kind of 80s sound, but the older I get, the more like nostalgic I get for it. Even if it's something I didn't grow up with, I just have this like kind of soft spot for it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean that's what was this was the soundtrack of surrounding us as we were growing up.
This is true.
So
All right,
I'm not
John.
surprised, yeah.
Still the Night. What do you think about this one?
I like this one a little better. I'll give it a 3.
All right. I am also, oh, I didn't write the name of it here. Still the Night. We're doing everything on the fly today. So you give this one a 3. I will give it a 3. I think it's pretty solid. I'm getting into the groove of the concept. I don't know if I'm really following how these things are necessarily linked to the storyline. Seems tenuous at this point, but
I'm not really. I'm not paying attention.
Thank you for your honesty.
I'm letting you weave it together because I don't.
I'll try. This next track up is called Dance with the Devil, not the Cozy Powell version, but it does have Cozy Powell on the drums. So he's played drums in at least 2 Dance with the Devil. This one's written by Tom Galley, Mel Galley, and Richard Bailey. So we've got, again, Allison McGinnis and Pete Green on vocals, Neil Murray on bass, Cozy Powell on drums, Rick Sanders on the fiddle, John Thomas on guitar, the fiddle, Mel Galley also putting a guitar line down, and of course, the vocals by Glenn Hughes. So here we go. Dance with the Devil. And Rick Sanders, this violin player, has quite a resume as well. I like when they come in off beat and make the whole feel different. I always like that trick. Interesting. He's another person that was on Gordon Giltrop's Peacock Party, which is the sequel to the Butterfly Ball, interestingly enough. Played with Pete York, Loudon Wainwright, Jethro Tull, Martin Barr, Roy Harper. Played with a lot of folks. The fiddle sounds almost synthesized.
Well, yeah, it does. Sounds like a keyboard fiddle.
Yep. But this guy's the real deal.
Imagine if they had a music video for this and they had like that skeleton playing the fiddle.
That would look... The paintings are pretty nice in this, but yeah, it would look... I can only imagine how bad it would look. Well, there is a Dance with the Devil video, so we can watch it later and see if the skeleton is in there doing a little jig.
That dance almost makes it sound like it's trying to be like a musical for like a stage production or something.
Like Cats.
Yeah.
Cats.
Dance.
So interestingly, in Glenn Hughes's biography, he doesn't talk about this album at all. Doesn't even mention it.
You know, I thought that was an odd thing. Like I've read some music biographies where there are some albums that the writer doesn't even mention at all, and you're like, why wouldn't they mention that? It's not every album deserves to be mentioned. Maybe he just has no feelings or memory of it.
Well, even when we talked about Feel, he mentions it like once in the book, very, very offhanded, brief. And so, I mean, that's his own personal solo album. This,
Yeah.
he was a guest star, and basically like it never happened. The only part it's in the discography section at the end, but some good Halloween themes in these accompanying pictures so far.
Yeah, I mean, I do dig the pictures. I mean, I think you were right. It does look like it's funny because it looks like what an artist's rendition now of what they think art in the like comic book art or movie art in the
Yeah.
80s looks like.
Yep.
Because you see a lot of that now, like it's especially with the Stranger Things,
Yeah.
right? Which I mean, you know, in all fairness, I think was done really well. But
I still haven't seen
yeah.
it, but I've only heard good things.
Yeah, I mean, uh, yeah, just first couple of seasons, great. If we ever get another one out of them, I think it's just too late. I think they should have just
Well,
hung
aren't
it
the
out, 'cause
kids
now
too
it's
old at this point?
yeah, but I think they're still doing it. So it's like
Really?
unless they did a big flash forward or came up with something else, like
Or just
you
have
know,
like a kid in the 8th grade with a full beard.
yeah, they just I mean, I hope that there's some way that they not only come up with a good concept for it, but kind of explained how old all of the kids are now, because it was like truly like a really great show. Like when I first saw it, the first season, I was like, wow, this really just hits all the right notes.
Yeah, when you're working with kids, though, you got to work fast. You can't dilly-dally like they do sometimes with these seasons. We'll come back later and do another season. I mean, they had all the Harry Potter movies like lined up. All the books were almost done at that point, I think, when they started it. So they were just
Yeah,
banging those things out one after the other. And even then, it's like from one movie to the other, like, holy crap. It's like full-grown adult now.
exactly.
Okay, so Dance with the Devil. And this one says, the Dance of St. Vitus. Many evocations of spirits, demons, and devils throughout the world begin with a ritual dance that builds to a frenzied crescendo. And of course, we've got the St. Vitus Dance, that song by Black Sabbath, named after the condition that would make people kind of like twitch and jerk uncontrollably. But John, what do you think of this one?
Hmm. Hey, I'm gonna have to give it another 2.5.
All right.
Just and let's remember that's middle of the road. So um yeah, I don't know if I really liked the fiddle.
No.
No, I don't know. It's just I don't know typically when I hear that instrument, especially like somewhere in like rock music or just anything other than, I don't know, fiddle music, whatever it belongs in, typically, so it kind of sounds out of place.
Yeah. I'll give this one a 3 again, and I think it's one of those ones that would probably grow on me to like it a little bit more because I do like the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Although it kind of reminds me of like a almost like a the heck's the name of those jackasses? The Boston band, the Irish guys.
I know
You know what I'm
exactly.
talking about.
Yeah, where they're
That
just like, let's play this at every Irish bar. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. What's the name of that band? Why can't I keep wanting to say the Mighty Boss Tones, but that's not
No,
it.
it's not. No,
It's the freaking
I can't remember.
Irish band Boston. It's got to come right up in Google. Famous Irish bands in Boston. Dropkick Murphys. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
The Mighty Boss Tones, though, they're the one that has the guy that he just dances, but he's in the band, right? They have horns.
I wouldn't know.
There's a guy he just stands there on the stage and dances.
That's his
Pretty
thing.
cool. Pretty sweet. Yeah, he's in the band. It's a pretty sweet gig. I don't know what he does in the studio.
Maybe he dances in the studio.
they
everybody all
set up a
hyped up.
mic on him and he just dances. Okay, so that was Dance with the Devil. The next track up, and this would close out the first side of the album. This is called Phoenix Rising. This is written by Gally and Bailey. The description for this one, again taken from Kerrang, is spontaneous human combustion. There have been numerous reports of such events as if the soul itself had suddenly ignited from within to destroy the physical body. Wasn't there something about that in like Guinness Book of World Records? I just remember seeing a picture of it. It was like an easy chair, and it was all singed on the bottom, and they're like, "Oh, this guy just spontaneously combusts that was sitting in it."
Did it?
I don't know. It seems there've been a few reported cases of it, but it seems a little hard to believe. But like the guy just burst into flames. He's gone. The chair's like got burn marks on it, but nothing else is burned.
Yeah, I'm sure stranger things have happened.
I don't know. It's pretty strange. Okay, again, Alison McGuinness and Pete Green on backing vocals. Neil Murray, Cozy Powell, Mel Galley, Richard Bailey, Tom Gallion vocals by one and only Glenn Hughes. And here we go with Phoenix Rising. And the artwork brings back the baby and some guy kind of burning. It looks like the baby is like in a pod. The hands are kind of holding it, and off to the side is like almost looks like those pods in the Matrix that the people are in, like lining the wall. It's got that sci-fi kind of ceiling to it. It's a very mellow song about somebody spontaneously combusting. And that baby's definitely in a birth canal. Look at that. And it looks like that picture up top is like people getting beamed up or something by a spacecraft.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Cosmic Arc. Remember that game for Atari?
What was that?
Cosmic Arc.
No, I don't remember that one.
It was like this space trip came down and you had to like meteorites were coming at you and you have to you'd have to shoot them all. And then you go to a little planet and a little like UFO would come out and it would zap up the people.
Oh. No, I didn't know that was what that game was called.
And it would have been like and it would have like the most like very harsh sound effects. Maybe they would have been playing a lot of Cosmic Arc in the studio during this, I think. Those must be the keyboards. It sounds almost like pan flutes.
Imagine if they did get Ozzy to sing this, how different a tone this whole album would have taken.
I could see Ozzy actually. I don't see Ozzy working in a lot of non-Ozzy or Black Sabbath context, but I could see him working in this context. Like with that real Ozzy chorus on his voice.
Yeah.
That's like Nova style keyboards. Remember that Nova show that used to be on when we were kids?
Mm-hmm.
All science documentaries and stuff. It's always like
Yeah,
a
I remember
certain
it fondly,
keyboard that
but it
comes
was
on
so-
that makes me think of like documentaries from school or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a powerful memory, but I just remember it was so boring.
You'd see that Nova logo come on the TV. You'd be like, oh no, gotta turn it off.
Well, it's just like if I was home from like school, like sick or something like that at like 12 in the afternoon, they'd be like the Days of Our Lives would come on and be like, ugh, soap operas.
I used to watch it with my mom, John and Marlena. But I remember like those documentaries would always have that like those cool Moog sounds. And
Yeah.
and like that, I always have nostalgia for that. Like the there's this show, The Mysterious Seas of Gold. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a cartoon about these kids that went to the New World. And then at the end, they closed with like a documentary that was like had that kind of like sound to it. But it was done in like. It was done in I think it was like a joint project between like the Japanese, the French, and the English. So everything was like dubbed into English, but they would cram so much dialogue into these translations that the English sometimes would be like, oh, and that's why the Incas did that, and the Incas were goodbye. They would talk so fast to try to get through everything they had to say. It was just always sounded wrong, but great show. All right, John, what do you think about Phoenix Rising?
Not bad. I'll give it a 3.
Right.
I don't see anything getting any more than a 3 here today. That's just
he's
my
calling
prediction.
it early,
but-
folks.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I like how how Hughes kind of came in at the beginning. Definitely sounded like his classic delivery of a soulful, passionate delivery of a slower song. I don't know if I really loved the chorus though.
But
I don't know, it just sounded kind of bland.
Rising, that
Yeah,
part?
just Phoenix Rising. It's like, sounded kind of low energy. I don't know.
It sounded like you just didn't believe Phoenix Rising. Well, yeah, that's what you say. It sounded like you just didn't believe them. Okay, you can say a Phoenix is rising, but I don't believe you.
Liar.
Lies.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Exactly. All right. So I will give it a 3.5. I like this one mostly for the keyboards. I think it's I don't know, I think it's a pretty good track. It's very it's this album. I think there's one thing you can say about certain concept albums, and sometimes they get the and I think that's kind of why people consider Sgt. Pepper's a concept album.
Yeah.
Is that there's like a vibe to it, and that they're doing all this stuff that's this kind of, it has an odd uniformity to it, even though the songs aren't necessarily telling a continuous story. These are telling a continuous story, but they all also just have that same kind of feeling. I think what would have been cool, and I'm surprised that they didn't do, and what I really love about the Butterfly Ball is having different singers for the different songs.
Yeah. I mean, is that like it now? Is Hughes is the vocals on the whole album, right?
Yeah, there's background
Okay.
vocals, but he does leads on everything.
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like having that back and forth of different characters singing for themselves or telling their own story kind of make it. But then it's like a fine line between that and a musical, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so next track up is a track called Believe. This would have opened up the second side of the album. It is written by Tom Galley and Richard Bailey. This song is about exorcism. It says, here is the conflict involved and contained within one body, the self wrestling against the evil spirit that attempts to claim possession of the body. Again, same backing vocals, bass by Murray, drums by Cozy. The only thing is vocals labeled as boy soloist by Neil Willers.
Okay.
Boy soloist. So it must be a boy vocal. You know, like
So, all right. So maybe not just Hughes.
well, he's probably just I'm just gonna guess that he's just gonna be like no, 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 with like the reverb and stuff. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll just be like, maybe he'll bust out like an awesome rock verse or something. But I'm guessing it's going to be more like church-like. But let's take a listen and be proven wrong when we listen to Believe.
All right.
This is a very all-encompassing sort of like Star of David, Christian and imagery, half skull devil, half Adam from the Garden of Eden.
There's a lot going on here.
An Ouroboros surrounding it. Yeah, it's a cool picture.
All right, I got a problem with these keyboards. They're just, I don't know, they're just too pronounced in the mix. It's like ding, ding, ding. Like somebody just was like, here, let me just play over everything. Like it has this very like they were added in afterwards. They were just plopped in there feel.
Yeah. Power and the glory. There's the Christian imagery. Fozzie Bear, noted Christian.
Oh, Carmet, who's your savior?
I mean, I would say, like, my only... Well, you see all these Latin words coming up at the end. I think I might have been right about the boy soloist.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, all of these don't sound like story songs. They sound like kind of what you'd expect in a rock album, just kind of songs about whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like a collection of songs on a kind of a pseudo dark 80s album.
Oh, here he is. a prepubescent boy was the only person they could find to hit notes higher than Husey.
A eunuch.
I don't think he's a eunuch.
It's a cool riff.
It is a good riff. Can't find anything about this boy soloist. He's probably our age.
I mean, I would guess, yeah, now. You know, kind of funny to think about how Hughes was at his lowest point in the 80s, and he's still delivering vocals that are not bad.
Yeah, and I think in one of these Kerrang articles, Tom Galley talks about working with him and says, gotta look it up. Might be in the second issue. I think he runs down all the people that played on the album. All right. There you go. Believe. John, what do you think?
I believe I'll give this one a 3. It was a pretty good a pretty good riff in there. The songs are they kind of all have a very, I mean, I guess to go along with the concept album, right? Is they all have a very similar kind of sound to them.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, like I don't know if I see like a theme running through everything. It's just they all kind of sound like the same.
Yeah, they just sound like they're by the same band, right?
Yeah, but I mean indistinguishable. Like there's some differences in there, but it's just this kind of like these moody or mellow kind of verses in there that aren't really, I guess I could just say like not very high energy stuff. Like I mean even the riff sounded very like very compressed. Not, yeah, it doesn't, I mean, but I don't know. I guess a lot of stuff like 80s production with the keyboards and everything like that didn't sound very like kind of spontaneous and raw and stuff like that, but that's all right. This song was pretty good.
It's that time of the evening when my dog loses it. So and in part 2, they do the roll call of who's on this album. And they Glenn Hughes is the first one, and says, Glenn Hughes, sighs Tom Galley, the Jekyll and Hyde of rock singing. Glenn came from Cannock, Tom's hometown, and the base of operations for the whole Phenomena project, and was an original member of Trapeze, the band that formed blah, blah, blah. We know all that. So I've known him a long, long time. It was just one of those things that whatever I could write, Glenn could sing. Why I didn't know. When we originally wrote songs, we were going to have everybody on the bar in the kitchen, and everybody on the bar, the kitchen sink. And then he talks about kind of trying to enlist Ozzy into singing. So there you go. And for your little Kiss bonus here, the Kulick brothers
Bruce and
there.
Bob Kulick, yeah. Very cool.
Okay, so that's Believe. Next track up, Who's watching you? Sometimes I feel like that's a good one for your Halloween playlist. Somebody's watching me. You don't like it?
No,
Why?
no, it's fine, but I think it's unfairly put on there because
Why?
it's like, but why? Because of the lyrical content. It's not. There's no mood to that. That song isn't creepy. Get out of here with that.
I just think what's his name, Rockwell, should give Michael Jackson a really big thank you for that one, because there's nothing going on in that song other than Michael Jackson's killer hook.
True. I mean, it is hooky.
Yeah. All right, who's watching you? This is written by both the Galley brothers. It says ghosts and spirits, just like Ghostbusters. I don't know why they say that. Like, I bet it's not that much like Ghostbusters. The humans watching the ghosts, haunting the humans. All right. The humans watching the ghosts, haunting the humans. Men becoming wolves. Did you ever hear the werewolf bar mitzvah song?
No.
It's from 30 Rock. It's Tracy Morgan. He's like, werewolf bar mitzvah, spooky, scary. And he's like, boys becoming men, men becoming wolves.
Sounds ridiculous.
Oh yeah, that's the point. You mean Tracy? You telling me Tracy Morgan did something ridiculous?
Yes.
All right, so here we go. Who's watching you? If I can find it. Slow synth start. Now this is a woman. This is a cool picture. The Grim Reaper holding up a picture of a woman screaming, but outside the frame. She's like inside the picture, but outside the picture. And there's all sorts of creepy bug creatures trying to like bring her into a bog or something.
Oh yeah.
And it looks like fog, but it's like all ghosts surrounding the house.
All right, this one cuts loose a little more. I kind of like this.
Yeah. This song reminds me of something.
Well, it's definitely the best rocker so far on the album.
I think the verse reminds me of Sharp Dressed Man.
I'm gonna have to listen.
Ah, the traditional organ.
All right. Very cool. Definitely an old school kind of mood going on here.
Yeah.
Dracula's Castle. Blue.
Don't I have a blue? Oh, there we go. I knew I thought I had an isolated blue there.
Well, you should have had that queued up right from the top of the show.
It was. I just forgot it was there. I had to scroll down. I don't think it ever been back to that verse part, did it?
No, but I mean, I kind of remember how it went after you said that.
Yeah,
I
it was
would
like
have
a
liked to
top
just
coat, top hat. I could just hear.
yeah, I would have liked to have heard it again, but I mean, I could see it. Yeah.
All right, John, who's watching you give this a ranking?
Well, right now, just you. So,
Yeah. Soon there'll
all
be
right.
tens of people watching us on
Tens.
YouTube.
So, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back on my prediction there, and I'll give it a 3.5.
All right.
I thought it was definitely like cut above the other songs so far. I like the definitely the verse was a little more hard hitting. Um, I mean, the overall vibe of the album though is very cool. It does have that very um, like 80s synth rock type of thing to it, where it's like it's kind of heavy, but not like super heavy or raw or anything like that. Just yeah, just kind of like I guess like a poppy mid 80s album.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I just think a lot of it is just kind of I think generic is a word that we used last time for um a lot of like the songs, we did the Feel album.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, nothing here is bad. It's just kind of generic sounding.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll also give it a 3.5. I like it. And I don't know. I like the vibe of the album. I'm gonna listen to it on Halloween and see if it's even spookier.
Ooh.
Ooh. I don't know. I'm not easily spooked by that sort of thing. Okay. So the next track up. Oh, did I go through the rundown of that song? Maybe I didn't. Oh yeah, I did. Ghosts and Spirits.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Ghosts and Spirits. All right, anyway.
Moving on. Next track, Hell on Wings. And then this one What's that?
Ominous. It sounds ominous.
This one just says the Battle of the Somme, which I thought was kind of weird. It says where a beleaguered force of British troops are said to have been led to safety away from the battle zone by the appearance of a group of angels. The apparitions are seen in particular at sites of great destruction and devastation. So this is kind of like a haunted battlefield vibe, I guess. The Battle of the Somme. That was World War I, right? I think it was World War I. So you got Snoopy flying around in his Sopwith camel.
Snoopy.
A nasty months-long battle of just people in trench, just absolutely the worst conditions imaginable. So here we go with Hell on Wings. Now this artwork, that doesn't look like the battles of World War I as I've learned them. Looks more medieval. Got more of like a...
Sounds like an Iron Maiden type of thing.
Exactly. You got more of a double guitar Iron Maiden lead harmony sort of thing. Neil Murray, Cozy Powell again.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same lineup we've been seeing on a number of songs. Written by Tom and Mel and Richard Bailey. Kind of like that little bass keyboard thing going on.
I don't know if I like that.
What, the voices in the sky part? Or just this chorus in general?
Yeah, just this whole chorus. It's very like... Dun, dun, dun. It's like the piano stabs, it sounds like.
Yeah. I guess I'm having trouble with the lyrics being like, what does this have to do with this girl connected to the machine? And we're just seeing like a a woman that's part bird, part fish. Some skeletons riding horses. Like, what is that? What about the girl? How's Lucy doing?
Yeah, what's happening?
Heaven's Afire. So remember when my cousin Kenny used to yell at you, "Sing Heaven's on Fire, Gene," every time he saw you?
Hey, Gene, sing Heaven's on Fire. And I'm like, all right, first of all, like that was a song that, like, it seemed like Heaven's on Fire too was like, I don't know, like 8 to 10 years before that.
Yeah, right.
And like, and I remember I would go to music stores and stuff, and I'd be like, "Oh, I like Kiss." And like, "Yeah, Heaven's on Fire." Ooh, and I'd be like, "What? Why is everybody picking on Heaven's on Fire?" Like, I don't get it.
It's a weird song to invoke.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember your cousin
Gene
would say,
even sing
"Hey,
that song?
hey, Gene, Heaven's..." No, he didn't.
It was Paul Stanley, right?
Yeah, but he'd be like, "Hey, Gene, sing Heaven's on Fire," and I'm like, "No." No, why are you being difficult?
He would just yell it from the window down at you as you were walking through the driveway.
Hey. Yeah, being a Kiss fan, never easy. Easier being a Deep Purple fan, for crying out loud.
You chose this life.
No, think about it though. Have you ever been bullied for being a Deep Purple fan?
No, it's more just like shock. People are like, "Oh, is that band that does Smoke on the Water?" Oh, cool.
Well, these days I'll usually get who?
Yeah.
Right, mostly from people younger than me, but it's never just like, "Oh yeah, you like," it's like, I don't know. "Hey Roger, sing Smoke on the Water," like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, and he would just yell at you as you were walking by because he knew you liked Kiss. He wouldn't have done that with any other band.
No.
Hey, Menudo, sing one of your songs. I can't think of one.
Hey, Menudo, like, hey, the whole band, like, not even want somebody in Menudo. Hey, Ricky Martin, sing.
Hey. All right, Hell on Wings. John, what do you think of this one?
I'll give it a 2.5.
All right.
I just, again, I thought it was kind of yeah, just average, I mean, you got me a little bit at the beginning with that kind of like Iron Maiden sounding intro, and then I don't know, I just didn't really like so much the like the chorus, which it sounded like it was like piano stabs, or like, it could have been stabs with the piano, or maybe it was electric piano, but it sounded like it was a real one, with the dun, dun, and it's, I feel like the choruses are just not really, they don't have any like bite to them,
Yeah, and it was like this kind of ascending, hell on wings, heavens on fire. Like he was just kind of going up. I don't know. I'll give
it just sounds everything sounds very soft.
Yeah,
to me.
I think I think that comes down to the production. The production is very. It feels like it's sitting in the background.
Yeah.
The only thing that comes to the foreground is the keyboards.
Yeah.
When I feel like if there was a little more punch from the drums and a little more, even more from the vocals, like you can hear the vocals okay, but if they sat a little more on top of things, maybe. But all right, next track up is called Twilight Zone. This one I don't even know. This is what it says word for word in Kerrang. Do with it what you will. It says here, David Stride, age 25, Outlander, mother and father killed by Trigon's guards, raised by Chinese grandfather from the age of 3. The terrain is hostile, barren, and rocky. Inside the city, the buildings are dark, dank, and decaying. The streets are run down and strewn with litter. And then they said, this one has me foxed. I don't know what any of that means.
Me neither. a bunch of words
It
strung
was
together.
definitely some words. I don't know what I don't. None of the words in any of this are Lucy. I want to know, like, we have actual character names here, but I'm not seeing any of them invoked in any of these songs. Like, I want to know what's going on with Lucy. But anyway, here we go. This one, next one up is called Twilight Zone. And Twilight Zone obviously has implications of being something spooky. But I think I started talking about it earlier, but I don't know if I finished, which was Galley mentions in one of these articles that Hughes came in and within like 3 hours had done 4 songs, you know, just like not many takes, just told him how the song went and he just banged them out because obviously he's Hughes and he can do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying that, Hughes is hitting all the notes. He's sounding good as he ever does. But I mean, that also could be the reason why maybe his delivery doesn't sound always as maybe passionate as it could have been. Maybe he didn't have enough time to sit with the songs and the lyrics to really connect to them and belt them out.
I think his
You know what I
delivery
mean?
sounds great. I think he puts a lot of passion into all of it, but
No, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just, I don't know. It's maybe because it's not his material. I don't know.
yeah.
Or it could just be the songs. The songs maybe are just not as awesome.
And the artwork for this one looks like a big
Looks like a
bubble.
big balloon skull.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's like a skull. It's like a deflated hot air balloon. Oh, there's that ninja guy again, just doing his ninja moves. Oh, there's a lot of ninjas.
Oh, I see him.
And the guy in the front looks like a Native American with a crossbow.
Yep.
But there's like a futuristic city behind them. But again, look at like to invoke the word generic again, the lyrics to me seem very generic for something that's trying to be a concept or the story that is allegedly being told. That if you didn't
Yeah.
tell me about Lucy and all this, I'd be like, this is just a collection of tracks. And cool 80s sounding tracks.
Oh, wow. Guitar player got wild with the tap in there at the end of that solo.
It sounded like he was going to be like he just and then he would just explode like in the Eat It video from Weird Al when he
Yeah.
does the guitarist comes in, he plays a solo and then he just explodes.
That was always my favorite part. I love that. Ugh.
It is amazing though, it's like that they got Cozy Powell for this because I don't feel like I would never in a million years have guessed he was involved in this.
No, me neither. I feel like you could have gotten Cozy Powell or a drum machine. And the results are the same.
Yeah, but to be fair, in that time frame, drums were even acoustic drums were almost made to sound like drum machines on purpose. So that could have been what they were going for.
Well, I mean, also, if you put a project together and Cozy wanted to be involved and there was a paycheck or something, not everything is going to be, Rainbow Rising.
Right, and
Right.
I'm sure that's not what if you're going for this concept
Playing
thing.
wise.
You're not like, hey, I want you to put in tons of fills.
Yeah. So
all
yeah,
right,
I mean, I'll get
Twilight
it.
Zone.
Yeah, I would. Oh, there we go. Twilight Zone. Oh, we have the sheet here. My ratings for Hell on Wings isn't there.
It is for me.
Oh, well, maybe mine's lagging. Oh, all right. Well, anyway, Twilight Zone. Yeah, 2.5.
Me too. Oh, you're not, oh, there you go. Yeah, it's lagged for me too. Yeah, I give it a 2.5 as well. Yeah, just kind of more of the same at this point. All right. The final track on this album, About It Is Said This. Phenomena, written by Tom Galley and Robbins, Paul Robbins. He does the choral arrangements. We have the return of Neil Willard, the boy solo vocalist. Musical directors Alvina Grant and Peter Grant, where their only credits are Phenomena releases. The choir of the Midlands Boy Singers. And this is the final optimistic choral triumph of good over evil. So spoilers, good is going to win. So here's the album closer, Phenomena. The titular Phenomena.
Or, if it's from the Muppets, wouldn't it be Phenomena?
Phenomena.
Yeah, we talked about Fozzie earlier.
Phenomena.
Ah. And this is the thing for it, the graphic.
Yeah, well, they didn't seem to have one for this song, so presumably there's no vocals other than the boys. Let's hear it for the boys. They don't sound like boys, those sound like men.
There you go.
It reminds me of that boy singing reminds me of video game Medal of Honor. Had this great soundtrack by Michael Giacchino, something Italian. But he's an amazing composer. His music's so good.
Yeah.
He does movies and stuff now. They had that sound to it. Short but sweet. That's it. Boys are done singing. Well, folks, while John looks at the spreadsheet,
we didn't rate it.
Never mind. I'm one step ahead here. Can you tell I'm getting hungry for dinner?
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
But so let's wrap this up.
What do you rank this
2.5. 2.5. Yeah. Again, I mean, not bad. It definitely had like a mood going to it, or going for it. But yeah, that's it was. Yeah, I would say maybe an appropriate way to end the album. I don't know. I'd have to dig more into the story, but I'm not gonna.
Spoiler, I'm not gonna look into it. All right, so while John fumbles with the spreadsheets.
Well, wait, what did you rate it?
Oh, did I not tell you?
No.
I give it a 3. I like it.
Okay.
We're all backwards today.
All discombobulated.
All right. Oh my god. We forgot how to do the show.
While I fumble with the spreadsheet.
Now, while you fumble with the spreadsheet, take it away, Ethel.
Well, John's busting out out the spreadsheets.
Oh, wait, no. Don't stop, Ethel. Stop. See, I told you we forgot how to do the show. Well, John fumbles with the spreadsheets. I will thank our last level of patrons, and that is, of
There
course,
we go. There we go.
that £3 50 pence Deep Purple New York tier. We have Lord Longford. At the £3 aromatic feed tier, Simon Ford and Richard Brees. At the $3.33 halfway to evil tier, Stephen Sharp and Duncan Leask.
Smoke on the water, fire in the sky.
At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, we have Peter Gardeau. Ian DeRosier. Mark Roback. Stuart McCord. Ivan Fjellbu. Runar Simonsen. Ruinous Inadequacies. Corey Morissette. Ashley. Rose. Weston Supermare Pilgrim. Joe Dopefish Sigler. At the $1.71 I Want My Own tier, we have
Rich, Yangui, Shaylor.
I know who Rich is. Rich is my favorite.
At the 10 kroner tier, we have Karsten Lau.
Cold, hard Danish kroner.
And at the $1 made-up name tier, we have the Who's Watching Goo, Leaky Mausoleum. We have Stephen Somerville, The Concerto 1999, Fanatic, Hank the Tank, Private Eyes, Ashen Lionel,
Blackmore Tights.
Steve Down to Earth Kohler, Swapper the Electric Alchemist, Anders Engstrom, ICDC, Durple Purple, Purple Swede,
Swede?
David Haddam, Graham Bonnet's Disco Pants and Haircuts, and Eddie Lyon.
Homosexual.
Thank you so much to all of you for your generous support of the Deep Purple podcast. All right, Ethel, hit him.
Well, John's busting out the spreadsheets, and he's fumbling with the tabs. Oops, he sorted it the wrong way. Now he can't tell what is bad.
All right, John, where does Phenomena fall in the album rankings?
Well, predictably by me, this is damn near the bottom.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, 5.83. I rated it a lot lower than you did. I gave it a lot lower ratings here, but funnily enough, between two Richie albums in the rankings, in between Stranger in a Soul by Rainbow and Shadow of the Moon by Blackmore's Night, it's kind of makes sense to me because just thinking of those two and then this, it's just I think the style of music and the songs in all of those albums just don't resonate with me. So, clearly you either, at least as much. So,
yeah, I mean, you were doing most of the pulling down of Shadow of the Moon.
yeah.
But in this one, we had a well, not too much of a 0.28 variance.
Yeah, I mean, it was
I was
not
a little more
not
favorable
huge,
to some
but
of those tracks.
yeah, not huge, but I think overall the this album was a just kind of a miss in my book.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. So this album, like I said, doesn't get mentioned in Glenn Hughes's biography. Kerrang lists the album as one of the most ambitious projects since Hawkwind's Space Ritual or Pink Floyd's The Wall. So
Maybe overstating it a little bit, but
maybe. I got a few reviews. There's one by Greg Prado that I'll put in the show notes. He says, supergroups have been common in the realm of hard rock for decades. Some have worked wonders, Cream, while some, well, stunk, too many to mention. One of the more obscure ones to surface was the 80s outfit Phenomena, who debuted in 1985 with a self-titled release and featured contributions from the likes of Glenn Hughes, Donna Airey, and a trio of ex-Whitesnake members, Mel Galley, Neil Murray, and Cozy Powell. Those expecting tough, rip-roaring heavy metal may be a bit disappointed by the album, which features a cover shot of a young girl quite reminiscent of Linda Blair circa The Exorcist. Keep in mind the mid-'80s was the era of polished, keyboard-heavy melodic rock, and Phenomena fit in with the musical climate, especially on such tracks as the opening, Kiss of Fire, and Still the Night. If GTR could have scored a hit or two around this time with the right push, there's no reason why Phenomena couldn't have also. The review that I have here from Kerrang that I'll put up on the screen. Oh, wait, that's not the right one. I'll try to put up on the screen. I will fail to put up on the screen. Let's see what Kerrang says of it. I'm going to do it old school. I'm going to read it directly from the magazine. Where is it? If I can find it. I think they review it actually in the magazine before they even get to the big breakdown about the album.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which is odd. Maybe I won't be able to find it. Maybe I'll just have to put it in the show notes. But I do remember they gave it a kind of a favorable review, as I remember. Maybe it's here on the second part here. Malice. Looking at all these other albums that came out. Here it is, Phenomena. All right. Phenomena. 4Ks out of a possible 5, I believe. It says it may have been the perpetual plethora of paranormal.
Oh boy, are they trying to cram too many P's in there?
It's classic, correct. It may have been the perpetual plethora of paranormal perplexities which constituted the intriguing conceptual design of Phenomena for creator Tom Galley, Mel's big bruv. But probably the most phenomenal aspect of this monumental project has been the clever compilation of such a star-studded staff, and especially the pinning down of the flighty Glenn Hughes for long enough to complete the album. With the titillating talents of mega musos like Don Airey, Ted McKenna, and Neil Murray being added to the titanic team of Hughes, Mel Galley, and John Thomas, Richard Bailey, and Cozy Powell, this album has been subject to close scrutiny from this shoddy scribe ever since its inception. The embryonic songs aroused by Hughes' awesome voice were of magical mineral matter, the resplendent array of rough mixes refreshed with the vitality and energy pressure-free rock stars playing for fun, seeped with the power and passion, and that's the finished product. Well, that's another story. On and on and on and on, and says at the end, well, there you have it, an LP of very strong material performed to the standard you'd expect from top-class musicians, but spoilt by a most unflattering mix. Still, the music is a film soundtrack after all, so maybe we should reserve final judgment until both audio and visual efforts are combined. Mark Putterford. So, but we will have to, we're still waiting for the visual part of it.
Still waiting.
Still wait any day now. But yeah, I would say my my biggest gripe with it would just be for all the hype around it being a concept album. I don't see anything other than kind of generic rock lyrics to these songs. And I don't mean generic in a negative light. I just mean these are songs you would see on any Rainbow, Gillan, go down the list. Any group of rock songs where you're not necessarily looking for a story, you're just looking to rock, but it doesn't really rock. It should be telling this story that clearly has been written. There's characters with names, and none of them are even mentioned in any of the songs.
True.
Lucy, Frame.
Actually, yeah. Now that you mention it,
her real dad, Karsten, or whatever his name was. None of them are mentioned. Not Karsten Lau. He wasn't the dad. I'm too late for the jingle. Ah, rats.
Cold, hard Danish kroner.
There you go. I was really
there you
late
go.
on it.
It's the end of the episode's falling apart anyways.
Yeah.
May as well just
It's
it'll
been
be
falling
on
apart
point.
since the middle, let's be honest. At least maybe the beginning. But yeah, he's not he's not the doc. He's not the dad. But yeah, I just, to me, it doesn't. I get what they're going for, and it does have a lot of promise, and it's got some cool sounds to it. It definitely captures the era. But as far as a concept album, I'm seeing more of a concept album coming out of things like Sgt. Pepper, which I think even Paul McCartney says. I think there's been interviews with him where he's like, we never really meant to make that a concept album. It just was kind of thrown out there that, oh, it's a concept album. It's like, well, you did dress up in the suits and do the cover and stuff.
Right. But I mean, that's however it's marketed, what people put on it, their own interpretations. It's going to be what it's going to be.
But cool paintings, cool.
Yeah, no, I think the artwork mostly was pretty neat. I enjoyed that, but I think as a concept album, it was not so good.
Yeah, not much of a concept. I mean, there's a great concept, just not employed in the songs.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, now that you mention it, I don't remember hearing anybody's names or any of that stuff. So
no. All right, folks.
Of the characters, I mean, yeah.
With that, gonna wrap it up. Going to go upstairs, have some dinner, play some Cosmic Ark, and we'll hope you all have a spooktastic Halloween. And
as I would say,
oh shoot, you gotta warn me. Okay, say it again.
And as I would say on Halloween,
there you go. I could just with this new setup, I could put like that crazy echo on your track. Oh no, I can't because I'm not recording your track live. Never mind. All right, folks. We will we'll see you next week and next year with our Black Country Christmas or Halloween or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yep. All right. See you next week, my friend.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.